Couldn't believe some of the last upgrades? Wait till you see these ones. It's me, Amanda, and today we're counting down 10 more unbelievable villain upgrades on this part 2. What villains are your favorite and why? Let us know in the comments below. Number 10, Goblin King. What would happen if Norman Osborn got his hands on the Infinity Gauntlet? Well, this is a hypothetical future that does exist somewhere in the multiverse that we get to explore via the What If Infinity Dark Reign one-shot comic. Now, this comic combines the two events of Infinity and Dark Reign to give us a future where Norman Osborn not only creates and leads his own Dark Avengers team as head of a new government operation in the place of S.H.I.E.L.D. known as Hammer, but also a reality where he manages to get his hands, or more specifically his hand, on the Infinity Gauntlet, complete with its matching set of Infinity Stones. Mainly, Norman uses this gauntlet to fight against the heroes who would still oppose him and his team, but also to deal with some, well, honestly, some daddy issues. You see, Norman's dad seemingly never loved him, and also was actually really mean to Norman, to be fair. And so Norman wants to prove to his father how great he is now, and rub his face in the fact that the son he thought would never amount to anything is now in essence the ruler of the universe. However, this doesn't work out exactly as Norman had planned in this, hypothetical, this alternate universe, and actually ends up backfiring on him in the end. I'm not gonna spoil it because it's a pretty fun twist, but you should check it out. It's a good little one shot. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not subscribe? Do it, click that subscribe button. It helps me out, it helps you out, helps the planet out. It's just good for everybody, really. Number 9, Goddess Selene. During the Necrotia story arc, Selene Gallio became more than the Black Queen. She sought to also become a goddess over life and death, but really more focusing on the death part, after aiming to gain the ability to basically devour all life on Earth. I mean, she is like a psychic vampire after all, so it kind of makes sense. To do so, she had to perform a blood sacrifice with a specific dagger belonging to her, which she ended up having to recapture. She succeeded in doing this, and for a moment, she actually seemed pretty unstoppable. However, Warpath ends up defeating Selene in the end by using her own dagger to defeat her, causing her to explode into blinding beams of light, with her seemingly also dying. Selene, however, does survive this and later, of course, will return. Even before Selene aimed to become a goddess, she was extremely powerful and worshipped as one, being a super powerful type of immortal mutant known as an external. But Necrotia really was an upgrade in the sense that her godhood wasn't just a title based on her standard power set, but a title earned through enhancing her powers. She also basically had like an undead mutant army, so that in of itself is also an upgrade. Number 8, Mirror Master. Mirror Master is one of the rogues, the Flash's team of villains that he often has to combat against. Like the other members of the rogues on Prime Earth, Mirror Master also ended up getting superpowers. Unsatisfied with just their weapons, feeling that the rogues were too easily defeated again and again, Captain Cold, their leader, devised a plan to give himself and his team members real superpowers by having their DNA blended together with their weapons, thereby making their abilities inherent. For Mirror Master, this ended up backfiring initially with him being trapped within the mirror world. However, eventually his girlfriend and current fiancé in the DC universe, Lisa Snart, sister of Captain Cold and currently a rogue herself known as Golden Glider, who accidentally also ended up getting powers, saved Sam. Once free of the mirror world, Sam made himself a mirror gun to use as a way to go in and out of the mirror world, which his powers now allowed him to control. So basically, at first it was a setback, but later, with the help of a new mirror gun, it became an asset and an upgrade, I'd say. And of course with the help of Lisa, because he wouldn't be free without Lisa's help. Number 7, Spiral. Spiral is just so cool and so scary actually as a villain, and yet we don't talk about her as much as we probably should here. But on this list, she should fit right in, considering that her even being a villain is kind of in part as a result of upgrades that were inflicted upon her. Spiral wasn't always evil. She actually used to be a normal human woman who happened to be a stunt performer. She did not become evil until later on in her history, being set down that path after being attacked by her villainous six-armed future self, actually. She fell in love with Longshot as a result of this attack as well, and decided to return home to the Mojoverse with him, which ended up being, all in all, a pretty bad decision. Longshot actually was quickly defeated upon their return, and Rita, aka Spiral, ended up in the hands of a villain even worse than her future self, the vile Mojo, whom the Mojoverse of course is named after. Mojo kept Rita prisoner for years and eventually had her heavily modified and and brainwashed, forcing her to become his loyal ally and lackey, known as Spiral, while giving her 4 more arms. She ended up being driven mad and was taught in the ways of magic spells, which she often casts by dancing. She also was trained in the intricacies of body modification so that she could later modify her own helpless victims, as had been done to her by Mojo. Number 6. Trickster Rex. Trickster is one of the rogues, but we aren't here to talk about a melding of weapons to his own DNA in order to give him powers or anything like that. We are here to talk about the Strength Force. It is like this Speed Force, but a conduit of a different type of energy. Instead of being about speed, I mean, it's obviously about strength, so yeah. Although it does focus on similar principles in comparison to the Speed Force when we're talking at least about, I would say, physics. The Strength Force is apparently all about gravity manipulation and the manipulation of force of motion, which can obviously then be used to make you seem and feel and act stronger, if you happen to tap into, of course, the Strength Force. For Trickster, this resulted in increased bone density and muscle mass, making him bigger and stronger than he was previously. A lot bigger, a lot stronger, becoming more monstrous in appearance. After becoming a host for the Strength Force, Trickster referred to himself instead by the name of Trickster Rex. Number 5. Infinity Ultron. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe animated series from Disney Plus titled What If, Infinity Ultron was revealed as being the main boss at the end of that first season, with all the heroes from alternate realities who were previously introduced in previous episodes having to band together to become the Watcher's guardians of the multiverse. In the end, Infinity Ultron is defeated, being forced to erase himself. However, for a while there, he actually threatened the very fabric of reality, thanks to him retrieving and assembling the Infinity Stones. However, I will say, I don't think we have much to fear in the comic book world from a threat like this. I think the Infinity Stones, or as they were previously known, the Infinity Gems, typically actually have a rule in the comics where they can only affect the reality they're from, so traveling through the multiverse with them wouldn't really work in the comics, because then, you know, you'd go to another reality and then they'd just be useless, so yeah. Number 4. Cheetah the Godkiller. Remember when Cheetah got her hands on the Godkiller blade? I remember. It was a wild time in comics. This all happened as part of the Year of the Villain event. At the end of issue number 75 of Wonder Woman Volume 5, the 2016 volume, Cheetah ends up being led to the Godkiller blade by Lex Luthor's drone. He urges her to follow his drone so he might lead her to the blade, but before that refused to tell her anything before they actually came upon it. Pretty trusting, actually, I would say, to just follow that drone blindly. Mainly, I assume this was done not for any actual reason towards Cheetah, but also to make us, you know, eager to turn the page and be like, where's the drone going? After being given the Godkiller, Cheetah is ready to once more confront her nemesis, Wonder Woman. But Lex also urges her not only to go after Wonder Woman and kill her, but also all of the Amazons. The Godkiller blade that Cheetah receives as a gift from Luthor is specifically tied to her own genetic pattern, thanks to a nanotech modification. For those unfamiliar with this weapon, it is insanely powerful and can basically shapeshift to accommodate whoever uses it and whatever they specifically need it for, and can easily do damage to even the most durable of superpowered beings or the most divine. When damaged, the blade itself is also capable of self-repairing. So this is a pretty crazy upgrade for Cheetah. Number 3. Joker, King of the World. Well, we already talked about a period where Joker gained reality warping powers on part 1 of this list. This isn't the only time that the Joker has gotten such power. No, no, no. In fact, weirdly, this has even happened, I would say, more than twice in comics. It's happened a few times. I wanted to give a shout out and a thank you here to Corey Graves from the comment section on our first part to this video, who actually suggested this specific occurrence of when this happened during the Batman vs. the Incredible Hulk crossover comic. So thank you for shouting that out. It allowed me to go back and be like, oh yeah, that happened, and it was so cool. Here, Joker gains an upgrade via an alliance when he allies himself with the Shaper of Worlds. The Shaper of Worlds is actually from Marvel Comics and is a being who can create extremely powerful illusions, which in essence are so real that they appear to shape reality. I mean, you could say he just shapes reality, but they are based in illusion, so I just thought I'd give you some info. The Shaper of Worlds can do this on a planetary level, which is pretty wild. Joker teams up with the Shaper in order to help the being cure their madness, and in exchange, the Shaper will basically make the Joker's dreams come true, making him king of the world. Having finally found the mind that the Shaper was looking for, one unique in all the universe with great ambitions and dreams. Apparently everyone else is dreaming way too small. Fortunately, Batman and the Hulk, while initially pitted against one another, by the end of the comic managed to team up and defeat both of these foes. Yay. Well, sort of. I mean, they definitely defeat Joker. The Shaper kinda just is like, I'm blasting off again, bye! Number 2. God Emperor Doom. God Emperor Doom is one of my favorite villain upgrades of all time. Because with God Emperor Doom also comes his own battle world and all the alternate characters and stories which reside within it. It's a cool story that took over and affected all of Marvel. A little story known as Secret Wars. How did Dr. Doom become God Emperor Doom? Well, this was a result of the incursions, kind of. While confronting the Beyonders, no one but Doom was really willing to take on their power and save everything. In so doing, he became the new ruler of the multiverse, and in order to save it from all of the incursion collisions that were happening, created his own reality which combined all of the universes together, becoming its ruler and its god. Doom also held this power largely thanks to Owen Reese, aka Molecule Man, who he kept kinda locked away, hidden away, and used the powers of to make himself like a god. So this wasn't Doom's own inherent power, he was kind of borrowing from Molecule Man. However, in the end, Doom would lose this power in a fight between him and Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, who had survived the destruction of the multiverse in a life raft. Owen would appoint Reed worthy to wield his power, and Reed would use this power, along with the help of his family, to restore the multiverse to normal, restoring most things back to how they were previously, and modifying some elements in an attempt to improve them. In fact, he even gives Dr. Doom everything he wanted for a while by making him think that the Fantastic Four were gone, and, you know, fixing his face for him so he's no longer scarred, which is actually really sweet. Number 1. Zoom. Well, most people simply know the Speed Force when it comes to origins of powerful forces in the DC universe. It turns out this isn't the only power type that one can get through connecting to forces. There are many different force types in the universe, and the villain Hunter Zolomon, recently known as Zoom, manages to gain access to not just one, but 2 of these additional force types. In fact, actually I think at one point there are 3 additional ones that he's connected to. One of them is the Sage Force, and as it sounds, the Sage Force is like a fount of wisdom, greatly enhancing the intellect of those that it connects to. This gave Solomon super genius level intellect and also granted him psionic powers, including telepathy and telekinesis, which honestly pretty wild, especially because Hunter's already like OP in my mind. Zolomon ended up using Barry Allen and Wally West in order to gain access to and connect with the Sage Force, as he discovered there was a force barrier in his way, which basically prevented these other force types from like coming into the world. He tricked the 2 of them to break this barrier, and then was able to gain access himself to multiple forces at once, including the Sage Force. Thank you so much for watching, I appreciate all of you being here. Until next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube. Bye!